broadcast this evening here in Normandy, where today is the 73rd anniversary of D-Day, and I've spent the day with 90-year-old somethings talking about their experiences at sea, on land and in the air on that extraordinary day. And you will hear a full programme about what happened today on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. So there's a bit of a war of words going on between London's Mayor Sadiq Khan and Donald Trump. This is how it all starts. Here is Sadiq Khan speaking in the wake of that atrocity on London Bridge.
Londoners will see an increased police presence today and over the course of the next few days. No reason to be alarmed. One of the things the police and all of us need to do is make sure we're as safe as we possibly can be. I'm reassured that we are one of the safest global cities in the world, if not the safest global city in the world. But we always evolve and review ways to make sure that we remain as safe as we possibly can.
Now, this was not the first time that Donald Trump had responded to something that was said by Sadiq Khan. Indeed, in response to that, Trump said at least 7 dead and 48 wounded in terror attack. And the Mayor of London says there is no reason to be alarmed. And the war of words kicks off. It had all happened before. Because when Trump attempted to bring in what was called the travel ban, although I still insist was just a temporary suspension from 7 predominantly Muslim countries, he didn't like it. Sadiq really thought it was outrageous and that Trump should not be allowed to have a state visit to the United Kingdom. Trump replied, as I guess only he would, by saying Sadiq was a buffoon and challenged him to have an IQ test. So these guys have a bit of history between them. Well, it's kind of moved on from there today. Tim Farron now thinks, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, that Trump should not be allowed to come to the United Kingdom, which he's due to do in October. And the Prime Minister, Theresa May, has said that Donald Trump's criticism of Sadiq Khan in the wake of the London Bridge terror attack was wrong. But, the PM said, the US President's state visit would still go ahead. So there are voices once again lining up to say that the President of the United States of America should not be allowed to come to the United Kingdom. And I'm asking you, should we uninvite the President because he questions whether Londoners have no reason to be alarmed? And if you think I'm taking sides on this debate, well, then, yes, you'd be right, because I do feel that many figures, like Sadiq Khan and others, are very good at giving us reassuring words, but perhaps not very good at offering us solutions as to what we're going to do about this growing problem. And it is a growing problem because we've been subjected to 3 terror attacks now in the space of the last 9 weeks. Is the right thing to do, given what Trump has said, to uninvite him, or are they just using any old excuse to bash the Donald? I'm going to ask Robert in Watford what he thinks about that proposition.
Hello there, Nigel. How's it going?
Hello. Well, it's going all right. I think so.
Yeah, no, I don't ban him. Just bring him over here, and then we can show him how we feel about what he said. So I think it's bang out of order the way.
I heard it. I mean, Robert, do you think that Trump's comment was outrageous?
Considering that the bodies were barely even cold, I do think that. He didn't come out and have a pop at who's the mayor of Manchester? I forget, the Labour fella. He didn't.
Andy Burnham.
Say anything. Yeah, he didn't come out and say anything then. I mean, obviously, I know they've got a bit of history, but you know what I mean? It's a bit callous, isn't it? Because he's sort of trying to make it about himself, isn't it?
Indeed, the mayor of Manchester said after the bomb, this attack has nothing to do with Islam. And I have to say, I found that to be a pretty extraordinary remark. But no, you're right, actually, Robert. The point about Trump, and Piers Morgan, who has known Trump for longer than me, said that Donald never forgets. If he's got a grudge, if he's got an issue, he keeps on going with it. And clearly there is this, as I say, war of words between him and Sadiq Khan. But is that, I was asking, is that enough reason to uninvite him? But Robert, you think, let Trump come, let's hear what he has to say, and judge him then.
Well, I think it's more of a case. Like I said, there's no point banning him. That's ridiculous. Like I said, if he can come here, then we can show what we feel. I mean, if people like him, happy days. If people want to protest, happy days. But you shouldn't be banning him. That's a bit silly. I don't
Robert,
agree with him in any way, shape or form, but don't ban him.
No, Robert, I think that is a sensible, mature, democratic attitude from somebody who is not a Trump supporter, and I thank you for your call. Going to ask Dan Wembley, do we uninvite the Donald because he and Sadiq don't get on via Twitter?
Hi. No, I believe we should invite him. And because now, breaking our relationships with the EU, who do we have left? We have the US. I know Mr. Trump made a lot of mistakes in the last period of time, but, you know, we don't have many friends as we divorce from the EU.
Oh, Dan, come on, matey. We've got the Commonwealth. There are 52 countries in the Commonwealth. The Queen's the head of it. And you know what? There are 2.3 billion people in terms of population within it. We've got lots of friends around the world. But one thing, and this is perhaps where your point, I think, is one thing that is interesting, is that Trump has been talking about us having a free trade deal with the USA. But you think, on balance, that we should that should go ahead, yeah?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. No, well, I do too. So why is it, Dan? Why is it that leaders of the Liberal Democrats and the Mayor of London think we should ban him? Does that say more about them than it does about Donald J. Trump?
I think Mr. Khan is a bit upset about what Mr. Trump is doing about the Muslims as well, himself being a Muslim. But, you know, I don't think that we should break relationships with US just because one or two people are not happy with him. I mean, many people in US are unhappy with his election, but he's still the president of the country, and I think we should carry on having a good relationship with the US. I mean, I know he made mistakes.
I do. Well, hey, Dan, don't we all make mistakes? The real fallout, if we go back a few months, the real fallout wasn't just over the travel ban, but it was also because one of the things that Sadiq Khan had said after one of the appalling European atrocities was that perhaps this is becoming part of modern life in a big European city. And it seemed to some that perhaps what Sadiq Khan was saying is we've just jolly well got to get used to this, and Trump attacks him for it. But Dan, whether we love him or hate him, you know, you're quite right. That country is very, very important to us, and I agree with you. I think the visit should go ahead. I thank you. Marie in Chichester, should we uninvite the Donald?
Most definitely. I'm really looking forward to it. And I tell you what, nobody's talking about Donald's first tweet, which said, "We are with you, God bless you." Now, what could be nicer than that?
But the thing on here, Marie, is that there are a lot of Trump haters who will pick out any particular part of what he said or done and use it as an excuse to try and stop him from coming. I guess, Marie, that you're not a purchaser of The Guardian down there in Chichester, because because they've just come out with their view, and The Guardian view on the Trump state visit to the UK is his invitation should be rescinded, and that's in their editorial, which will appear in their paper tomorrow. So you won't be rushing out, Marie, to buy The Guardian?
No, I won't, but I'll be rushing out to see Donald when he comes over.
Will you? Right. So you're a true Trumpite down there in Chichester.
I tell you what, Donald Trump and you can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. Nothing at all. I think you're lovely, and I think he's lovely.
Well, I think you're wonderful, but I suspect, Marie, there's quite a few people out there that might disagree with us, but thank you for your call. I enjoyed it very much. John in Windsor, should we uninvite the president because the Mayor of London doesn't like some of the things he puts on Twitter?
Hi, Nigel. Yeah, well, one piece of context. First of all, I'm probably a Trump disliker, yeah? However, he's now the President of the United States, yeah? And we know that he doesn't follow convention. So the fact that he tweeted shouldn't be a surprise. The point at which the UK is now, we need the US and some of the key Commonwealth players more than ever before. So I think that Donald should come to the UK, and what we should try and get out of him is a free trade deal that looks at free trade between nations which have similar economies and a similar outlook, which is Canada, United States, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and a few others. And with those countries in a free trade deal, you've got almost 50% of global GDP, yeah?
It's actually quite, in some ways, John, it's quite exciting. So we need to have good relations because America is important to us, whether we like Trump or not, really is what you're saying, isn't it?
Exactly. So, you know, that's what diplomacy is all about. It doesn't matter whether I like you or not as a person, we have some common history, we've got common interests, so let's make the best of it. And we'll deal with personal differences. That's the grown-up way,
John, I think you are absolutely right. Now, something interesting is happening here, because on the one side, we have Tim Farron, and we have Sadiq Khan, and we have the Guardian newspaper, and on the other, we have every single LBC caller that has come onto this show so far this evening who think, whether they like Trump or don't like Trump, he should be allowed to come. Continue with your calls, your texts, your tweets. Tell me, perhaps you're someone out there who thinks he shouldn't be allowed to come. Do let me know. Right now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show. So the political class and the Guardian newspaper are joining together to say we must not allow this man, who was the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, to come on his official visit to our country in October. And I'm asking you, do you really think, because he has a spat on Twitter with the London mayor, we should uninvite this man? And so far, you've all been saying, of course, whether we like him or not, he should come. Messages. Nigel, the Americans have always had a right to comment on the events affecting their closest international ally. London is not the UK. It is uber diverse, and that is the problem. I'm with you, a McDonald, says Jill in Isha. Trump is the only one prepared to tackle the true issues that the world faces head-on. Bring him over to the UK, show him our political parties, and show them what a true leader is, says Ollie in Basingstoke. Hi, Nigel. POTUS should not be uninvited to the UK. He is our closest friend and ally and must be welcome here. The whining left need to grow up. Nigel, help. I don't understand the outrage at what Trump said about Khan. Trump was frustrated that we keep having attacks and never seem to do anything about it, both here and in the US. We should support Trump's passion for change, says Elaine. Not a Trump supporter, but the country should welcome Trump to show him how we tolerate and welcome others that don't share the same views as us, comes from James in Welland City. I've yet to hear anybody, nobody is texting me, tweeting me, Facebook messaging me, ringing me to say that The Guardian and Tim Farron and Sadiq Khan are all right. I'm keen to hear from all of you. I wonder what Chris in Maryland thinks of this dilemma.
Yes, sir. I'm a Republican. I don't love Trump, but I don't know any American that doesn't love the UK, and we look at this as a symbol of our strong, special relationship, and we want to see it happen. You know, we're looking forward to it. It hasn't happened in a very long time, since Bush, I think.
Well, yes, I mean, Chris, actually, Obama did come to the United Kingdom, and he came to look down his nose at us and sneer and tell us that unless we vote... Okay, well, we can't really, can we? I mean, he did do 2 terms. But no, we haven't... I mean, what was considered to be the very special relationship has, I think, Chris, deteriorated over the course of the last few years. So do you think, actually, that if Trump comes and people see him and listen to him, perhaps their prejudice against him might change?
I think that so many people have made up their mind already, but... You know, I don't think that that's the point. I think it's the point is that, you know, the Europeans are nothing but they're fools, and they don't know that, you know, we're almost like a family of nations, and I think they need to see that it's more than just dollars and euros and pounds. That it's the fact that we fought you're at Normandy today. And
yes, I am.
That's what our relationship is about, not stuff.
Yeah, well, Chris, I have to say that I do, having visited some of these places today, rather take the same view. I do think there is something fundamentally important that links many of the English-speaking peoples of the world, and generally it's been our love, not just of liberty and democracy, but our love of free speech. And I'm aiming that comment, Chris, at Guardianistas, at Tim Farron, and at Sadiq Khan. We believe in free speech. It's one of the things our forebears 73 years ago today here in Normandy were fighting for. Chris, I thank you very much indeed for your call. I'm going to Lucy, who's calling from Oxford. Lucy, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. I'm calling
Good
because
evening.
I don't think this man should be invited to the UK. He's a bigot, he's a misogynist, and to use this tragedy to cause a spat with the mayor of London when he misconstrued what he was trying to say just shows the infancy of his mentality. Plus the fact that we're going to have to spend millions of pounds to protect the man. It's
Well, Lucy, I mean, look, I fully understand that you absolutely loathe the bloke, and I fully understand that. And yes, you might be upset about millions or maybe even tens of millions of policing costs for him to come if there are protests and all the rest of it. But, Lucy, I would argue back at you by saying that whether you like him or dislike him, you know, he is the USA's 45th president. And if we were able to pull off a trade deal with the United States of America that got rid of barriers, that might be worth billions to us and tens of thousands of jobs. Surely in the face of that, Lucy, we should at least have a conversation with him and allow him to come and give us his point of view.
But he wants a full state visit. I mean, he wants it all laid on with, you know, everything that goes with it. And I don't think the man deserves it. I don't think that he qualifies for such festivities. He's a repugnant individual, and I don't think that this country stands for different values than he does. And
well, come on, Lucy. He stands for the democratic process. He may have differing views to you, but I mean, this is not some kind of monster we're talking about here.
Well, he may not be a monster to you, but he is to a lot of other people, and. And to describe Obama the way that you did, saying that he was sneering at us, is also just indicative of where your loyalties lie as well.
You're quite right, Lucy. You're quite right. My loyalties lie with democratic countries that believe in liberty and free speech, not to be bullied by Obama into staying part of the European project. I feel very strongly about that.
Well, I feel strongly about that, too. And I just have to say that when he misconstrued what Sadiq Khan said, he should have apologized for that, and he didn't. Sadiq Khan did not say that, did not put that in those ways. And I just think that if he was a real leader, he would have apologized for that. And one of your other callers made a very interesting point, that he said nothing about Andy Burnham, who perhaps said something even more insulting, that the attacks had nothing to do with Islam. But he singled out Sadiq Khan, which shows that he's petty and he has divisive points with individuals which he just won't let go of.
Well, Lucy, even as a Trump supporter, I will say he never, ever lets an argument die. And I do understand that, and I do accept that. And perhaps you're right. Perhaps it would have been more consistent if he'd really larruped into the Mayor of Manchester for what he said. Lucy, I completely understand your opinion. You're the first caller we've had so far this evening that doesn't want him to come, but I fully understand, and I've listened very carefully to what you've had to say. Larry tweets, if I was Trump, I'd uninvite myself. He must be sick of the UK media and politicians constantly knocking him. Well, actually, do you know what, Larry? He gets plenty of that back at home in the United States of America. Philip in Farnham, do we uninvite the president because of a Twitter spat?
Hi, Nigel. Nice to speak to you. No, I think we're being very petty, to be honest. I think we're being small-minded. And I fail to understand why, effectively, a local politician, albeit a huge city, has the ability or even the audacity to make that request, to rescind his invitation. And what I would also like to say is there's an awful lot of people who've been to state visits in this nation, who've had all the pomp and ceremony, who've turned out to be, despots and dictators. Robert Mugabe, former President Zaire, he came here in 1973. Vladimir Putin in 2003. George Bush 8 months after he invaded Iraq. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of President Trump's politics, but I'd also like to point out that 2 tweets prior to the so-called offensive tweets to Mayor Khan, I mean, the first one he posted on what would have been our time, I guess, very late Saturday evening or early Sunday morning. Whatever the United States can do to help out in London and the UK, we will be there. We are with you, God bless. I mean, to me, that's incredibly gracious and kind and obliging. He then put, in a further tweet a few hours later, we must stop being politically correct and get down to the business of security for our people. I think that's a tweet we should all be reading and taking to heart.
I think, Philip, what this is all about is a group of people in this country, the political class, the media, and some individuals who simply are looking for any excuse to criticise Trump. They never praise him for a single thing he does, and you know what, Philip? They never ever will, and I agree with you. It is completely immature in the extreme. Adrian says to me on Facebook, Obama was useless. 8 years wasted. Oh, Adrian, you must be listening to me. Joe says, yes, he should apologise for twisting what Khan said. Vile man who likes to stir up trouble. Well, Joe, he might be a vile man in your view. But, as we've said, we've had Robert Mugabe on state visits. We previously had the Emperor Hirohito on state visits. We've had a whole load of Arab leaders who think women should not only cover their faces, not drive motor cars, and that terrible things should be done to homosexuals, and they come to London and visit the House of Commons and are treated with all due pomp and circumstance. And Brandy says on Facebook, you guys don't want him there because there are so many people in our country that love him, and the British elites don't want to show the world that. Brandy, I'm not convinced that the British public love Donald Trump, but I am convinced there are more fair-minded people in the ordinary community who are prepared to give the man a hearing and think he should come and have his say than there are amongst our politicians and media. I think they're the ones, once again, who are completely out of touch. A long-running spat between President Trump and Sadiq Khan was boiled over today, with leading political commentators, many of them suggesting, through media and politics, that Trump should be uninvited and not come to the country in October. It all started again when the Mayor of London said on Sunday, after the appalling attacks on Saturday, that Londoners had no reason to be alarmed. Well, you may be right, Mr. Mayor, although as someone just said to me, when you get to the top of the tube and you see people armed with machine guns, you do ask yourself what's going on. When you realise that changing the guard outside Buckingham Palace has now been reduced to just 3 days a week and all the roads are closed around, actually something very unpleasant is happening, and our way of life is actually being changed, whether we like it or not. And your texts and tweets are absolutely flooding in. Donald Trump has forgotten that the good people of New York went about their lives after the Twin Towers. Time you learnt respect, Kat. Kat, let me tell you something. I knew downtown, I knew Wall Street and all round there very, very well before 9/11. And let me tell you, after 9/11, that particularly the nightlife, after the office closed at 5 o'clock, completely died in downtown New York. And you know something, Kat? It's never actually recovered. Trump is a despicable man and doesn't deserve our time and consideration. How dare he be so rude to our mayor? Only politicians and journalists think we have a special relationship with the USA, says Claire. I don't think he was that rude. I think they've been very rude about him repeatedly ever since he first launched his campaign. Yes, Trump should come here. After all, the Queen has invited him. Good point. Who is Mr. Khan to say he can't come? Says BB. Sadiq Khan should show the same passion in protecting Londoners as he extends towards Donald Trump. POTUS is welcome to Great Britain, says Mike Johnston. Andrew in Wandsworth, what do you make of this? Should we uninvite the president?
Good God, Nigel. You just said Wall Street has never recovered since 9/11. That's a load of rubbish, a load of crap.
Do you want to just... Now, if you want to listen to what I said more carefully, I said the after-work social life that existed in downtown. In downtown.
2001. I went there in 2002 in February when
Yep.
everybody that was downtown. I had friends that worked on the forensics, and yeah, it did. Then when New York came back from New Jersey and other uptown areas, I've been going to nightlife in the area, and it's fine. It has recovered. There's a shopping area. There's the central, Crown Plaza, which is like a TK Maxx, massive, that people go to. So it's recovered. I just think that's really disingenuous to say that. And also, Donald Trump, your mate, why should he be here when he deliberately targets the London mayor? And he could have easily targeted the mayor of Paris, who has said very similar things, the mayor of other towns, cities in Europe that have been targeted by terrorists, and your mate Trump has done this. It's absolutely disgraceful. He shouldn't deserve, and I'm an immigrant here, he shouldn't deserve to come here, to come over like he has done on his 9-day trip, to actually talk down to people when he's got no foreign policy and no idea, just to get money out of people. It's just... It's pathetic, looking for the deal. He's got no...
Maybe you're right.
...about him. It's just
maybe you're right, Andrew.
So annoyed.
Maybe you're right. Maybe Trump.
As a person, I've lived here 30 years, on and off, and I've worked in America. And what you're saying is wrong about New York. It recovered. I tell you what it did do is that when you walked into a building before 9/11, you didn't have security. After 9/11, you got completely patted down. People walked around with gas masks, etc. I've never seen, even during the IRA here, of people when a bomb went off walking around with gas masks or making decisions.
Well, Andrew, I've been going to New York regularly for over 30 years. I would say to you that a lot of the nightlife that was there in downtown Manhattan migrated to Midtown and never came back. You're quite right. There are now some new big shopping malls that have opened downtown. I was there. I spent a couple of days there before Christmas. Things are better than they were in the wake of 9/11, but it's not quite the same place. But that is a purely subjective thing. Midtown boomed in the wake of 9/11, and Midtown now dominates the social life in the most remarkable way. As far as Trump's inconsistencies, maybe I agree with you. Maybe he should be attacking a lot more people than just Sadiq Khan. Perhaps he should be laying in to Andy Burnham and everybody else. But are you honestly telling me? Are you honestly? No, Andrew, I'm with you. No, I'm with you. I think Trump should be a lot more aggressive. I agree with you. I think he should get on the front foot and criticise a lot more people. But are you? Now listen, are you seriously telling me, because you object to him and me and all sorts of people, are you seriously telling me that we should uninvite him from a big, important visit in October this year?
And putting the words special relationship under a microscope, and he's threatening it with his boorish bullying behaviour. He's attacking London in a statement, and all Londoners taken out of context and listen to that stupid media vile mouthpiece called Fox News as his Twitter go-to, and he's as such. He's undermining the rest and the spine of the UK. And, on his last trip, watching him dictate in a stupid, boorish way to the rest of NATO, I applaud Monsieur Macron in telling America that they've got it wrong. And,
Andrew, you just don't like him, do you? It's as simple as that. You just don't like him.
Well, you like him, so that's a different opinion. What does it matter? Do you have to like the person that's in power? No. I've listened to you.
But Andrew,
I really don't like you, Nigel, but I absolutely applaud the way that you went at an unelected body, and I think it's fantastic, but I got criticised for it. But, hey, I like what you say, but I don't like your politics. So let's,
Well, that's fine. And Andrew, listen a moment. In that spirit of what you've just said about me, which I think is terrific and quite right, and indeed what LBC and what this show is about. It's about people having big, proper, open debate, not being frightened of saying what they think. That's what people want to hear, these arguments, because it helps them make their minds up. But Andrew, surely, in that spirit, we should make sure that Trump comes to the United Kingdom and makes his arguments, and maybe a lot more Brits would agree with you after the visit than agree with me.
Nigel, let's look at two things that have happened. When the presidential election was on, and then when he got elected, there was a fair and organised demonstration through London which showed people saying how much they didn't like Donald Trump, what he represented, and what he was saying during the electioneering. They did that. The other day, there was a small rabble of people of some group that were outside of Parliament going, "We love Trump, we love Trump," and the stupid right-wing community media of America, which is so insular and myopic in their view, came out with the line that when you're cheering an overseas president, you know that you've got something wrong. And about 6 of them were told to go away. It's like, pathetic. But there's a larger body of people, I would say, and I would bet, and I would eat whatever hat that you wear, Nigel, that would go out and demonstrate, as I will, if Trump ever comes here. And I think you'll see a larger demonstration against him than you will against China.
No, you may be right. We've now moved into the world of demonstrations, where the Bob Geldofs were on Brexit and elements of the Democrat Party in America, rather than accepting a democratic result, they go out and they protest. Andrew, I thank you for your call. James in Romford, is Trump vile, awful, obnoxious, misogynist, and goodness knows what else, and should we uninvite him because of it?
Yes, he's deeply offensive. He's a Nazi. We should not only ban him, we should ban him. We should burn the American flag when they come over.
Oh dear.
No, I'm joking. I love Trump.
I was going for the smelling salt moment.
These absolute lunatic lefties, mate. I've been hearing it all day. He's driving me up the wall. I've got James O'Brien and the other lady. Oh, it's like programming. So much. You know what? I'm going to get the Donald Trump mask. I'm going to go to that protest with my Pepe T-shirt on, and I'm going to show my support. He's the only straight-talking person out there who speaks to the front of the jury, who don't want to be, oh, let's all throw the white flag up and do it. Sadiq Khan ain't doing nothing. Sadiq Khan, listen, Sadiq Khan, all I hear is tequila. That's all I hear. Tequila.
I shouldn't be laughing at such a serious subject, but James, you did say that with some passion, and I have to say, I do feel a bit of that frustration from time to time. James, terrific. Caller of the week. You've made my day. Thank you. Well, one thing is absolutely for certain, which is almost everybody on the left seems to absolutely loathe and despise President Trump and want to ban him and shout him down and, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, find any excuse to slag him off as much as they can. The Twitter comment from President Trump was just as ambiguous in reply as the original "Don't be alarmed" comment. We all need to learn a bit of respect, says Phil Martin in Thurrock. Surely Trump's visit is a great opportunity to show him how great a country and capital we have. Let's show him how wrong he was, says Rich. Well, Rich, do you know what? I think, actually, this is a real golden seam, because I do think, whether you love him or hate him, get him to this country, let people judge him, let him see how we do things. Nigel, instead of getting involved in petty squabbles, Mayor Khan needs to think to direct his attention to solving these terrorist atrocities committed by Islamic terrorists, says Laura in Shenfield. And interesting, Laura, that the Prime Minister talked about Islamic terrorists the other day. I think that's the first time she's ever used that phrase. I would love Donald Trump to come to Britain. I also want him to receive a warm welcome, to which he truly deserves, says Jane. Whether she means that or not, I'm not sure. You can interpret that in lots of ways. I'm going to ask Leon in Beckenham. I mean, Leon, are we losing our minds here, where just because some of us don't like this chap or things he's said and done in the past, we want to ban the most important democratic elected leader in the world from our country? Are we losing our minds, Leon?
Well, I speak as an American who's lived in this country for 42 years and was brought up in a staunch Republican family. And I want to say that my mother and my aunt, who were brought up as proper ladies, would have said that man is so uncouth. Nigel, you are a gentleman. I was hoping that your friendship or associations with Donald Trump would be a good influence upon him.
no British politician behaves the way he's behaved, but I don't want to slag off Trump. The reason I wanted to ring in was to make a positive suggestion about something, okay? Hello?
Yeah, go on.
My positive suggestion
yeah, go on.
is...
Make that suggestion, Leon.
My positive suggestion is that there is an awful lot to the UK to be seen beyond London. Now, the Queen was honouring the American people by issuing an invitation to their newly elected president. I have a vivid recollection of when Jimmy Carter visited this country in 1976, I think it was. He went to places like the ancestral home of George Washington up in County Durham. He went to Newcastle. Donald Trump has New York associations. Why not have him make his visit to York, England? There's lots of England and lots of the UK to be seen beyond London. And if the London-centric crowd don't want to welcome him, or if that raises security issues or cost implications, why not style this visit in a very different manner?
Well, Leon, I think you're actually right. Of course, Trump's own background is that his mother was a Scot who came from the Western Isles. He himself loves Scotland. He has investments in Scotland, which he cares about very much. He does, of course, have a great professed love for the Queen. But, Leon, I think you're right. And somebody earlier on tonight made the point that London is not the United Kingdom. It is a part of the United Kingdom. Also, Leon, I would say that if he comes and visits the UK, it's a positive thing from every perspective. One, we won't have, I don't think, the huge style demonstrations, and secondly, we will be able to show him actually what an amazing, remarkable, diverse country we've got, even if it does rain a little bit too often, as it has the last couple of days. Kathleen in Wokingham. Kathleen, do we ban this man?
Yes, I'm covered. Oh, sorry. You're on fire.
Hello.
Hello? Ooh.
Hello.
Hello?
She's gone. OK, Kathleen, we seem to lose you. Can I go now to Eric in Chicago? Eric, are you there? OK, we seem to be having a few technical problems here. Barack Obama wasn't banned when he said the UK will be at the back of the queue, yet stupid lefties still love him. So, a lot of different opinions coming in on this. But actually, Jeff says to me, President Trump might be a wild card, but in comparison to Chinese leaders, the Arab Emirates, royalty, and the 3 IRA murderers who Corbyn invited to Westminster, he's a kitten. So lots and lots of different points of view. Let's try Chris in Nottingham. Chris, hello.
Good evening, Nigel. Hello?
Hello, I can hear you.
Oh, great. No, absolutely not. He shouldn't be banned. He's a democratically elected president, elected by the American people. And whilst the left in our country and in America seem to forget that, he is a democratically elected president. So absolutely he should be welcomed. I'm a bit saddened, Nigel, to be honest, by the fact that Sadiq Khan and Lib Dim Tim seem to forget the fact that we're quite happy to welcome 400 jihadis in from Syria. We're quite happy to welcome hate preachers in from Saudi Arabia and the like. But we get really upset because somebody who we don't agree with, but is democratically elected, wants to come and visit our country. We should be welcoming him.
So, Chris, what is it? How have these people so lost sight of that very simple, basic fact that you've just put, that we've allowed all these jihadis back in from Syria, and yet they don't want someone who they don't like? Where's this all gone wrong, Chris?
I think there's a real denial to face up to what the actual facts and the problems are. People tend to sort of live in their own echo chamber, don't they? They listen to what they want to hear. I love LBC when you're on. I'm not so keen when James O'Brien's on. So, I don't tend to listen when he's on. So, I suppose people tend to gravitate towards what they want to hear, I suppose.
Well, I think that's true, Chris. Of course it is, but to a certain extent. But I do sort of sense here that kind of we're losing our values. It's as if, and I've seen this with the Brexit debate, and I've seen it where universities like Bristol want to ban someone like Jermaine Greer, who I thought was one of the most free-thinking commentators there'd been in the last 50 years. Chris, I think something's gone wrong somewhere. I thank you for your call. I'm going to ask Barry in Brixton what he makes of this, what has become really rather heated debate about whether we should withdraw the invitation for Trump to visit the UK in October.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. So Sadiq Khan said due to the attack, there'll be an increased police presence, but there's no reason to be alarmed by this. Trump tweeted, at least 7 dead and 48 wounded in terror attack, and Mayor of London say there's no reason to be alarmed. So he's taken that out of context, and everyone can see that for themselves. I think he should be allowed in, just not the state visit as it is. But I'd ask you, do you think he got the wrong end of the stick, or is he being dishonest?
I think, Barry, that he got involved in this verbal punch-up with Sadiq Khan some months ago, when Sadiq Khan did, in a message, in a tweet, basically say that we'll have to get used to terrorist incidents as a part of life in modern Western cities. And I must admit, Barry, when I heard that, I thought, that is utterly, totally defeatist. I don't like it one little bit. And Trump had a go at him. They had a bit of a punch-up over it a few months ago, and Trump just does not let arguments like this lie. Whether that's a good feature of his personality or a bad one, that I think is what's really behind this. But Barry, I can't, for the life of me, see that what is a really basically tiny little verbal disagreement compared to some of the massive disagreements we've had with other foreign leaders who visited Britain, I think that to try and stop him coming from our country because of it, Barry, I think it's bonkers.
Okay, but first of all, you didn't answer my question. But if we think of it the other way round, yeah? Because the context is different now. There's been a terrorist attack. If after 9/11, Tony Blair had publicly explained to George Bush that he thought that George Bush did not have the American people interests at heart, and perhaps had acted against the wishes of the American people in his response to 9/11, I mean, it would be a very significant scandal indeed. And you avoided my question, which was, do you think that he got the wrong end of the stick in this case, not the one that happened last month, or is he being dishonest?
I think he may have got the wrong end of a stick. Barry, I thank you very much indeed for your call. I thank all of you who've called in, texted, tweeted. We've had some huge passion on both sides of the debate. I guess Trump is a guy that does excite huge passions in people. But the way I was brought up, you can have those huge passions, have those huge disagreements, but you agree to disagree in democracy. We're moving to a new form of democracy where we want to ban things and ban people, and I am absolutely against that. And do you know what? If it was Bernie Sanders that had been elected, or somebody who politically I had nothing in common with, I'd be the last person arguing they should be banned. I think it's crazy. Well, later on today, in an hour's time, you'll see a video on lbc.co.uk of some of the things that I did, some of the people I met in Normandy today, ahead of the programme on Thursday. And tomorrow is the last day of campaigning the general election. We'll be back to that for my show tomorrow at 7 from London, coming up at Tennessee and Collins. But up next, it's Clyde Bull.
Nigel, thank you. Now we're going to look at the general election. It's almost